Hello and welcome to Missing Serial Killers. I'm Lee and I'll be your guide as we take a trip back to 1985 to see what we can discover about the Honolulu Strangler. The first murder from the Strangler occurred on May 30th, 1985. The victim, 25-year-old Vicky Purdy, went clubbing the night before in Waikiki. She was last seen at midnight on May 29th by a taxi driver. She took a cab to pick up her car at the Shorebird Hotel. The next sighting of Vicky would be the following morning when her body was found on an embankment at Ke'ehi Lagoon. The body was found wearing a yellow jumpsuit from the night before with her hands tied behind her back. The body had also been sexually assaulted before being strangled. This would become the Strangler's calling card. The Strangler had a cooling-off period after the first murder and was dormant for the next 6 months. The next victim, 17-year-old Regina Sakamoto, missed her bus from Waipahu to school on January 14, 1986. That morning, she called her boyfriend at 7:15 a.m. to tell him she would be late for school. The next day, her body was found at Ke'ehi Lagoon. She was still wearing her sweater from the previous day, but her lower half was naked. As with the previous, she had been sexually assaulted, hands bound, and strangled. After the murder of Regina Sakamoto, the killer continued on to his second victim of 1986, 21-year-old Denise Hughes. On January 30th, Denise, who usually took the bus to work, failed to show up for her shift. The next day, her body was found at Honolulu Stream by 3 young fishermen. The body was wearing a blue dress and had been wrapped in a blue tarp. Although her body was disposed of differently, she still had her hands bound behind her back, had been sexually assaulted, and strangled. This victim prompted the police to establish a task force on February 5th, 1986. The Honolulu Strangler took a few months off after this. Perhaps he felt the heat starting to catch up, or the urge had been contained by the previous 2 victims. This lapse would not last long, however, as the Strangler took his 4th victim between March 26th and April 1st. 25-year-old Louise Medeiros had flown to Kauai to be with her family after her mother had died. On March 26th, she flew back to Oahu, telling family she would get home by bus. Her plane landed at Oahu, and she wasn't seen again until April 2nd, when road workers found her body near Waikiki Stream. Her body had already begun decomposing by the time she was located. She was wearing her blouse, but the lower body was unclothed with her hands bound behind her back and strangulation marks on her neck. The last known victim of the Honolulu Strangler was Linda Pesci, age 36. According to her roommate, Linda had left on April 29th and was expected home that night. When Linda didn't come home, the roommate reported her missing the following day. A Caucasian man went to the police and told them that a sidekick had told him a body was on Sand Island. The informant took the police to the location on May 3rd, but no body was located. However, the island was searched and the body of Linda Pesci was discovered. Her hands were bound, clothes were removed, and she was sexually assaulted and finally strangled. Naturally, the police suspected the informant who had taken them to the island. He was arrested on May 9th, but after 7 hours of interrogation and a failed polygraph, the suspect was released with no charges filed. This man would become the only serious suspect in the case. His ex-wife and girlfriend told police he had a bondage fetish and also would leave after he had a fight with the girlfriend. The dates of these fights corresponded with the dates of the murders. The suspect also lived in Iwa Beach, which was not very far from the dumping sites. The largest issue with proving whether the suspect committed the murders or not comes down to DNA. When the victims were discovered, there was very little DNA left from the murderer to test. The police believed this was due to the murderer possibly having a vasectomy. After the task force investigated the suspect, the murders stopped. 2 months later, a witness came forward claiming to have seen a man with Linda Pesci the night she was murdered. The witness was able to pick the suspect out of a photo lineup presented to her, but did not wish to continue out of fear that the Strangler saw her that night as well. The main suspect eventually moved to the contiguous states and was watched by law enforcement wherever he moved. He died in 2005 with no further evidence pointing in his direction. Now I would like to know what you guys think. Do you think the main suspect did it, or do you think the police wasted a lot of time on him while the real killer was getting out of Dodge? Please leave a comment with what you think happened, or if you find any additional information on the case. If you enjoyed watching and would like to see more from the channel, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time with another missing serial killer. Thanks.